Hello everybody and welcome to this Rangers review, another wee special video, bite-sized video as me and Joshua have been recording recently. We've been focusing the previous videos on players mostly, but this one is a scout report, if you like, on tomorrow night's opponents, Rangers taking on Benfica in the Europa League last 16. First leg in Lisbon, of course, before the return at Ibrox a week tomorrow, and Joshua has spent a great bit of time having a look at Rangers' opponents and what we can expect when the two teams go up against each other. How's it going, Joshua?
Yeah, going good. Watched a fair bit of Benfica over the last couple of days, and they look pretty good in some regards, Derek. Also think they have a couple of weaknesses that are quite exploitable for Rangers. It's a type of game where you really would want fit wingers, and that's obviously the area of the squad. Ross McCausland's been training this morning, but it's the area of the squad where Rangers are really weak. And Philippe Clement said, didn't he, that this is the first game since he came to the club where Rangers are real underdogs, which I think shows what he thinks about Benfica's quality. So we're going to have a bit of a look at their style, how they play, some of their strengths, but also try and look at maybe a couple of areas that teams have targeted them successfully in recent matches and where Rangers might look to target them over the next couple of weeks.
Yep. So, I mean, current Portuguese champions at this moment in time, I think it's a tough draw for Rangers. I think it's winnable as well. Rangers in Europe in recent seasons have been capable of taking on anyone and giving them a game. I don't think Benfica will fancy the trip to Ibrox. I'm sure they'll be hell bent on taking over a healthy lead next week. However, they've stumbled of late, Joshua. I know they lost in the first leg of the Portuguese Cup to Sporting, and they got hammered on Sunday night away to Porto, and the fans not best pleased. But in terms of their overall season, I know they're just a point behind the leaders, Sporting now. How have they got on this term? I know they were in the Champions League, weren't they? Never really enjoyed a good start in the Champions League group stage. They salvaged the Europa League spot, finishing third in their group. But how have they got on this season? Can Rangers get at them?
Yeah, well, listen to your podcast with Alfredo, the Benfica podcaster, the other day as well, which was interesting. They're only a point behind in the league. Obviously, they've had two pretty damaging results against the two rivals, Sporting and Porto. I think the interesting one as well is if you look at their two-legged tie against Toulouse, watch both games of that tie, and they were pretty lucky to go through. Two penalties. If you look at the expected goals overall, they only just shaded it. I think it was 2.64 to 2.32 in open play over the two games. Toulouse, if you watch even the highlights of that home game, Toulouse will still be trying to work out how they didn't score. So I think Rangers will look at this tie, and as Clement said, there's a reason that he thinks this is, even in comparison to Betis, a more difficult task than Betis. And I presume that's because you look at the individual quality, as we'll talk about just now, that Benfica have. They spent almost 100 million euros in the most recent transfer window. They're only a point off the top at the top of the Portuguese league. Simultaneously, as Alfredo alluded to in that podcast you recorded with him, Derek, Rangers maybe meet Benfica at a time that they're not at their strongest. Neither are Rangers, it should be said, in terms of the players they have available. I've got the two pass networks here from the two games against Toulouse, and all this is doing, I'll show the home one first, all this is doing is taking the average passing position of players, and it gives us a bit of a good indication as to what shape they're playing in. So Benfica defend in a 4-4-2. Roger Schmidt, their coach, has got a reputation for being a kind of high-pressing, aggressive, playing high-pressing, aggressive football. And I think that's true to a degree. You certainly don't want to lose the ball, as we'll come on to talk about in certain areas against Benfica. But I also think, as we'll come on to talk about their weakness, they aren't the kind of... I thought they'd be more intense off the ball than what I think they are. On the ball, in possession, they play with high and wide fullbacks. They've had real issues at fullback, Derek. They signed two players to play at left back in the summer. One of those is injured, Juan Bernat, and the other guy whose name escapes me is now on loan in Germany. So they've got a young defender on loan at left back, as you can see there, Fernandez. And then they've been playing a guy called Morato out there at left back as well. Whereas at right back, Frederick, I think it's pronounced Orsnes, is more of a midfielder. They've had real issues at fullback, and they rely on their fullbacks a lot. They have an attacking midfield set up, quite a narrow formation. You can see there Di Maria, João Mario, Cockchu. It's going to be difficult to pronounce all these names. Was obviously at Feyenoord last season. They've got loads of individual quality. Rafa Silva as well. In that attacking unit, you look at Cabral as well. He's someone who came from Fiorentina for I think it was about 20 million euros in the summer. And this is their home game against Toulouse. Really narrow. He wants his attacking unit playing in close combination, kind of minimum width in the attacking side of things, with the fullbacks providing width. I've got a little screenshot here of what this looks like in practice. You can see here Morato is wide on the left, and Alexander Ba. This is actually in the away tie against Benfica. Alexander Ba, who obviously played for Frankfurt in the Europa League final. They're the ones that are providing width. You've got your attackers in pink. David Neres in this example is the one playing from the left, and you've got your midfield double pivot in white. So the point being that they don't really play with high and wide wingers. They can, as we'll look at here, the pass network from the away game, which ended 0-0. They can look slightly wider at points. In this game, they had a little bit less of the ball, I think 5% less of possession. But generally, a narrow attacking side, high and wide fullbacks, loads and loads of individual quality. And at times, all this can lead opponents to kind of crowd the centre, as we've seen with Rangers at different points, crowd the centre and show them wide. The danger is when these players like Di Maria, like João Mario, like Rafa Silva do find a bit of space in central areas, they're far more closer to goal than if they were receiving the ball out wide and attacking from those positions. So a couple of examples just to show you in GIF format. I know you like the GIFs.
I love the
we use. You do. So we'll play them through a couple of times, and I'll just then pause it and explain what I'm seeing. This is the best chance that Benfica had. I think it was a 0.71 XG chance that Angel Di Maria missed in the away leg, which is would have obviously kind of put the game out with Toulouse's reach. But if we take this frame by frame, you can see high and wide fullback Alexander Ba is the one that's wide. The four players there are your four attackers. It's notable just how narrow they are. Again, that's because I think Schmidt wants them to be narrow to press the ball and try and counter press in aggressive areas. It's because he wants them again operating closer to goal, operating in combination with one another. And a lot of the goals you'll see, whether it be João Mario normally or Rafa Silva, is one of these midfielders running off the central striker who here makes the front post run. Di Maria to the back post misses a really good opportunity. But again, notice high and wide fullbacks, narrow attacking four. This goal, I think this is João Mario's third goal and a hat-trick he scored against Inter Milan. I'll just let it play through again, and then we'll break down the key themes. I think it's, again, I don't know if I'm going to do this pronunciation yet correct. Sorry, my words are all over the place, Derek, today. Tengelstedt, I think it is the striker who is more of a wide forward. He often plays with João Mario up top, and you'll see as for this hat-trick that João Mario scored in the Champions League, I think he created all three of these goals. But again, if you look at wide fullbacks, narrow attacking four, Rafa Silva and Di Maria, that's your right winger and your number 10. Playing in close combination with one another. The forward run here of Orsnes takes away the attention of the Inter Milan left wing back, which creates that space down the side of the defence, allowing the striker to run down the sides and João Mario, your midfielder, to run beyond. So those couple of examples, apart from me not getting my pronunciations right there, hopefully give a bit of context as to what Benfica are as an attacking side. They're a team who like to play with high and wide fullbacks. They're a team who rely a lot on João Neves, who's only 19 at the base of midfield, to cover a lot of ground in relation to their fullbacks as well. Often play with a very tight and compact four, their striker, their centre attacking midfielder, and their two wingers. And the danger of that is if you do give them any ounce of space in central areas, they're going to punish you very quickly. So that's what they're good at. That's what they're strong at. Loads of individual quality, loads of examples. But I also think, as we'll now come on to speak about, because we're, of course, a bit more interested in, well, how could Rangers try and exploit that? Yeah. They've conceded a lot of similar goals, which Rangers will be looking at, I'm sure, with a bit of optimism travelling over to Lisbon today.
Yeah, with that in mind, how do you see Rangers setting up? Because I've seen a few suggestions, Joshua, that Philip Clement might change his shape for this game. As you said, Rangers are underdogs, like you said, and I think it's all about keeping the tie alive for next week. Do you think they'll be compact and try and just be resolute and perhaps shut up shop?
It's interesting, Derek, because, I mean, this point is a wider point at the moment if Rangers don't really have many wingers. And even if Ross
Yeah.
McCausland, it looks like the fact that he's in training today, thankfully he's not suffered any injury from that tackle that forced him off at the weekend. And Philippe Clement did seem quite concerned after the game. Even if you've got McCausland in there, Cortez has just went through surgery. He said it went successfully on his Instagram, but don't think he's going to be back on the pitch anytime soon.
He's going to be back soon, Joshua. So I'm taking his word for that.
Yeah, hopefully, I'd love it if that was true. The point being, Derek, even if Rangers have McCausland back, they still are so light in those wide areas. So there is a question: will Clement maybe go to wing backs? I think the difficulty there is that he puts a player into the back line when he normally only builds up with the two anyway, and it changes your whole pressing structure. You've not got much depth up top anyway, but then is that a way to get Silva and Dessers into the squad? I'd be surprised if we see Rangers shift to that, especially with limited time on the training pitch at the moment, but you never know. I think generally what is true is Rangers will look to Dujon Sterling, for example, definitely will play in this game. I think you'll see Rangers really try and protect the centre, show the ball wide, a tactic that teams have tried against them quite a lot recently. But also when they then go to attack, I think the area they'll try and exploit is the back post. So again, another gift for you here. We'll run through this. I'll play it from the start, and then I'll talk through why I think this goal and the two others I'm going to show indicate one area that Rangers could try and target. This is the first goal that Sporting scored in their 2-1 win against Benfica. I think it was last weekend. I'll play it through again. It's Gonçalves, a header at the back post. That obviously put Sporting ahead. Because Benfica play with these, and as I say, Schmidt's side normally have a reputation for being pretty resolute defensively, and they're certainly aggressive. You go back and watch the second goal that they score against Inter in that 3-3 draw at home in the Champions League group stage. They're aggressive when they counter press, but I don't always think that translates to the way that they go back, and the wingers especially help their defence out. Di Maria in particular is someone who quite often gets caught, if we look through these examples, gets caught ball watching and not tracking his man, which means that often the way to target Benfica defensively is try and get 2v1s on the fullback. So you can see in this example, Alexander Ba has a man on his outside who he has to worry about, whereas Gonçalves is running off the back of Di Maria. And it's really simple, but the ball goes back, and as the ball goes back, the Benfica defence squeeze up. Di Maria doesn't track his man. Alexander Ba actually does step in, but then he's leaving his man completely free at the back post, which maybe would have been even a more easy pass for Sporting, but Gonçalves manages to get the run on the ball and head home. This is a goal that, and in the piece that's attached to this, the article that's attached to this video, Derek, there's maybe 5 or 6 examples of this type of goal that Benfica have conceded. Here is another one. This is from the game with Toulouse, the home game. And again, if you notice it here, look where David Neres are and Angel Di Maria. They're both behind their men. Toulouse here are playing with wing backs. They're attacking with a front 5. Rangers presumably aren't going to play with wing backs, but you can guarantee that James Tavernier, this is a game where he'll be trying to get forwards and be the beneficiary of a back post cross, something that we've seen Rangers do pretty consistently in the last couple of years. I'll play this through again, but just notice, and it was after deflection that this goal came about, but notice again a 2v1 on both sides, neither winger tracking back. You can see here that Di Maria isn't helping his fullback out, and then Neres on the far side isn't helping his fullback out, which allows Toulouse to get that extra man on either side and eventually score at the back post. Now, I don't know. Maybe it is the instruction of the manager for Di Maria and Neres to stay high, and Benfica still have 6 players there. They still have enough defensive cover. If they play with a kind of defensive double pivot, then maybe it gives you enough cover to compensate. Thinking that if they then turn the ball over there, Di Maria and Neres are going to be really dangerous attacking into space. But it struck me when I've been watching Benfica how often they concede this type of goal with the opposition managing to get an extra man, create an overload against the fullback. And the final example is taken from injury time in the win against Porto, where Porto are 4-0 up. So you might say, okay, it's not very relevant because the game's done by this point. But again,
hopefully it'll be 4-0 to Rangers by that point tomorrow night, Joshua. So
I think you get good odds on it. But again, 2v1 on the outside on each side. Notice at the back post, there's a free man. And again, much like the goal, I'll play it through one more time, but much like the goal we just showed against Sporting, the fullback is kind of caught between going into the centre or tracking his man at the back. Whereas if I go to this frame here, you can see that David Neres, this time again, the winger, is high and wide, not helping his fullback out. So, as I say, Derek, it might be that that's an instruction, and it might be that we flag this up and then Neres or Di Maria don't track back, but they go and score loads of goals in transition against Rangers. I think getting through this tie will be extremely difficult for Rangers because of the individual quality. They'll have to keep quiet. Having watched the previous round against Toulouse and where Benfica are in relation to recent results, if they are able to frustrate and keep it tight and take the game back to Ibrox, you never know. But such is the nature of their attacking setup. They only need a few yards to really punish you. You know, Di Maria won the World Cup last year. We don't need to go through all their individual quality, but they've got a lot of fantastic individual players. But if we watch the goals that they concede, there is a clear area that I think Rangers can target. Getting a 5v4 in the back line, getting midfield runners into the middle, creating 2v1s against the fullback is something that opponents have done quite successfully, consistently against Benfica in recent weeks, and it'll be intriguing to see if Clermont's side can get some success that way over the next couple of weeks in this Europa League last 16 tie.
Yeah, very interesting, Joshua, as ever. Thank you for that. Hopefully Rangers can look to exploit those weaknesses that Benfica have, and they can keep them out as well. So, yeah, really looking forward to it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, as ever. If you want to read that piece in more detail, head over to the Rangers Review website. We have two great offers on at the moment, £18 for a year or £4 for 4 months. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe if you haven't signed up already. Right, thank you to Joshua, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.